Seguimos con este...
Donc continuons avec cette...
estoy nerviosa.
I am a bit
Qué bonito
nervous.
veros aquí a todas.
It's so nice to see you all here singing together. It's
Un
really
poco la idea
beautiful.
es
And
de
the
este
idea
momento,
now
sobre
is
todo, compartir todo el trabajo que hemos
this
hecho
moment,
hasta hoy
share the
y un
work
poco
we've
también ver
been
las
doing
líneas de futuro de
until
cómo
now
estamos.
and
Entonces hemos pensado que había primero un momento para que
Our
el grupo impulsor que ha estado trabajando hasta el
projects
día
for
de
the
hoy,
future, our
impulsando todo
ideas
este
work
proceso,
for the future.
pudiera hacernos un poco de
So
relato de
we've asked
cómo
one
hemos llegado
person
hasta aquí
from
y
each
de
group to come
cómo,
up
¿no? sus ideas
and
para seguir.
tell us what
Y luego hacer un
they've
momento
done.
de la presentación de la plataforma virtual, que es una herramienta, ¿no?, tecnológica que nos tiene que permitir esta
And for
confluencia
each
ahora
convener
que
group
nos separamos cada una a sus casas.
to come
Pero
and
como no, la cosa ha
tell
ido
us
con
what
retraso, lo vamos
the
a cambiar,
conclusions have reached. And
porque hay una persona que se tiene que ir, entonces vamos a empezar con
but there's
primero la
someone
presentación de la
who needs to
plataforma
leave, so we
y
will
luego
first
el grupo
do the
impulsor
introduction of the
tiene su
platforms,
momento.
and then we
Termino de
will
explicar. Luego de
do
esto
the
habrá un
convener
momento
group
para que
representative
personas de las confluencias locales que
presentations.
habéis estado trabajando esta mañana
Those
podáis
who have
compartir con el
been
resto lo
work
que habéis hecho.
Convergence.
También para que una persona de cada
And
uno
also
de
share
los
what you've
10
been doing
retos que
this morning,
definimos
and
también
on the
pueda explicar
10 challenges
así las
that we
cosas más
defined, you can also
importantes o
explain
más significativas de cada reto.
what the most
Esto es lo
significant
prioritario,
or
¿no? Como compartir lo que hemos hecho.
important
Luego
things
queríamos
that you work
dejar
on
un
where, and
pequeño momento para si
after that we
alguien
would
siente
like
que tiene que decir algo que no ha
to
estado
leave a
nombrado,
space
¿no?, durante todos estos
so
días
that
y que realmente es importante que
if
todas
anybody
escuchemos. Y al
feels
final
that they would like
haremos
to add
un
something,
ritual
we can
de
all
cierre para
listen, and then at the
despedirnos.
end we will do a
Pues,
closing.
paso la palabra a
Well,
Nuria. Hola, ¿sí?
now I will
Hola, ahora sí.
give the floor to
Muchas
Nuria.
gracias.
Thank you.
Como os comentaba,
As
lo que
I
vamos
was
a hacer
saying,
ahora es una breve presentación
we're going to
de
do
este
a
espacio
brief
virtual
introduction
que
of
hemos
this
pensado
virtual
que nos
space that
puede
we've
ayudar
thought
a seguir
can help
construyendo
us
este
to keep
foro
on
del
building this
2020.
forum for 2020.
Sabemos que la participación
We know
virtual nunca va a
that
poder
virtual
sustituir
participation will
participación
never
real,
be a
encontrarse
substitution of
es
real
muy
participation.
importante,
Meeting personally is very
pero
important,
también es importante
but it is
que ahora
also
que nos separamos
important
podamos continuar
to be
construyendo
able to keep on building
este
together
cambio que queremos hacer.
and to
Entonces,
build
en
this
ese
change that we
sentido,
want.
hemos pensado crear un espacio de participación
We've
virtual,
thought we could
aprovechando
create
una
a
herramienta
space
que
for
ya
virtual
existe,
participation and use a tool that already is
que se llama
already
Decidim.
there, called
Es una
Decidim.
herramienta,
This tool
que está pensada
has been
para
thought
potenciar
in
procesos
order
de
to promote
democracia,
democracy
¿vale? Procesos de democracia directa,
processes,
tanto en el
direct
espacio
democracy
municipal
processes
como
in the
en
municipal area
organizaciones,
and
movimientos
in
sociales,
organizations,
etcétera.
social movements, etc.
La historia de esta herramienta
The story
nace
behind
muy
this
ligada a
tool
Barcelona, al
has to do with
territorio
Barcelona,
de Barcelona y a su,
the
y a
territory
su
of Barcelona,
sistema,
and its
de economía basada en programario libre y
economy
su sistema
based
de
on
redes de
free
participación.
software and
Juntando estas dos experiencias,
participatory
se ha
networks.
creado una herramienta
Bringing these two experiences
de
together,
programario libre
a
que
free
da
software
respuesta
tool has
a
been
lo que es
created,
un
giving an
proceso
answer to what
participativo.
is a participative
Se ha
process.
construido desde cero, con lo
It's
cual
been
está
built from scratch,
adaptada
and
completamente a
it's
las
been totally adapted
necesidades que
to the
tiene un
needs
proceso
that a
participativo que quiere tener una
participatory
participación
process has,
presencial y
with
una
a
participación
in-
virtual. Y permite
in-person
la confluencia de estos dos tipos de
participation as well as
Por eso hemos escogido esta
a
plataforma
virtual
y también
participation.
porque
It includes both
basa
possibilities. This is why we've
su
chosen this
filosofía en dos
tool, and
pilares
also because it
básicos
bases
que
its
creemos que son
philosophy
superimportantes
on two basic pillars
en un
that
contexto de
we
capitalismo
think
global.
is extremely
Uno
important in a
es
context of a
el tema de la
global
protección de
capitalism.
los
First,
datos de las personas que
data
usamos esta
privacy,
herramienta.
data
Está
protection for the
basado
people who use this tool.
Bueno, su filosofía es proteger al 1000%
Protecting
la
in
privacidad
100%, no,
de las personas que
1000%, the
volcamos
privacy
ahí
of
nuestra
people
información y nuestros conocimientos.
who will be inscribing their information there, they're giving their data and putting it in there.
Nuestra sobre nuestros procesos políticos en
These
herramientas
are
del
political
capital, como son
processes.
herramientas de las redes sociales, porque
These are networks
obviamente estamos generando
for
un
capital
valor a
and
través de
for
todos nuestros
social networks. We are adding
conocimientos.
an added value for our knowledge, and this value
Por
needs to
eso,
be protected. This is why,
cogemos
number one,
esta herramienta y el valor
we're
dos es
choosing
la
this
transparencia de
tool,
los
and number
procesos.
two, the
Está
transparency of the
pensada a la vez que está
processes is
protegiendo
extremely
a los
important
usuarios,
because
a las
at the same
usuarias,
time we're
está
protecting the users and their
ofreciendo
privacy. We are
una calidad
offering
de transparencia y de
a
trazabilidad de la
quality of
información absoluta.
transparency and information
Con lo cual,
traceability,
este proceso de construcción
a full
del Foro
traceability
2020 será
of
transparente y será
the information. So this 2020 forum will be 100% transparent, visible, accessible to all.
Dicho esto, paso a explicar lo que hemos
I
configurado
will now
en esta
explain
plataforma. Es una
how this
herramienta que permite muchas
platform has been
configuraciones.
configured. It
Hemos pensado esta. Si vemos que necesitamos
allows
una configuración, la
different
podemos
configurations, so it can be
cambiar, porque es muy
changed.
adaptable.
The one we've
Pero
done,
empezamos
we could
con
change the one,
esta
but we
y
can
es una
start with this
propuesta que
configuration.
vamos
This is
a
a
hacer a la asamblea
proposal
para poder
that we are presenting to
validar.
you here in the assembly
Hemos pensado que
to be
podemos tener
validated.
unas asambleas
We thought
o
we could
espacios de
have spaces of
participación,
participation,
que ya están funcionando,
participation
que serían
spaces
los
or assemblies,
distintos ejes de trabajo
the different
que
work
existen,
axes that
¿no?
we
que han
have
empezado a funcionar de manera
and that
autónoma.
started
Creemos que
working
este trabajo
autonomously.
de
We
los
believe
distintos
that
ejes
this
tiene que
work
tener
by the
también
different axes should also have
una visibilidad más allá de lo
a
presencial.
visibility beyond what is done
También hemos
in
creado
person.
como espacios de organización, pues lo que serían como
We've
las
also
distintas
created the
comisiones de
different
trabajo
work
que nos
commissions
permitirán organizar el foro.
that will allow us
Esta es
to
una
organize the
parte de
forum.
las asambleas que están organizadas a través de
The
esta
assemblies
plataforma.
organized
La
through
otra
this
parte,
platform.
que es
The other part
la que nos va a
is what is going to
permitir
allow us
construir
to
el
build
proceso
the
del 2020 es la parte de los
2020
procesos.
process, and that's
De momento
the
hemos creado un solo
process
proceso,
side. We've only created
que
one
es
process for now,
el actual, ¿no? El
the current
primer encuentro
process,
internacional hacia
the
el
first
Foro
international
Social Mundial.
meeting
Y en este
towards
proceso
the
veréis que tenemos
World
unas
Social
cuantas
Forum, and you'll
funciones
see we've got
activadas,
a few
¿vale? Una parte
activated
importante es la parte del
functions.
debate, de la
An
deliberación.
important part is the
Podremos
debate,
continuar teniendo
the
estos
deliberation
debates a
part. We
través de
will
esta
continue having this
plataforma.
debate through this platform.
Y más allá del debate
Beyond the
libre,
debate,
no estructurado que podemos generar a
this
través de las
structure-free
relaciones
debate,
uno a uno que hemos hecho estos días,
through
también hemos
one-to-one
volcado o
discussions,
volcaremos,
etc., we
aún
will
estamos en
also
ello, todo lo que está pasando estos días en la plataforma. Como ejemplo, podéis ver que en el
upload everything
viernes,
that we've been talking and discussing in the platform.
volcado aquí
We
algunos
have
de los
uploaded
retos que salieron,
some
de
of
los
the
retos compartidos que
challenges, the
salieron en
shared
algunos
challenges
espacios de
that we heard in
trabajo.
some of the
¿Qué podemos hacer con
working
estos
spaces.
retos?
What can we do with these
Obviamente,
challenges? Obviously,
nosotras que hemos estado aquí,
we
no
who
lo
have
hemos
been
vivido
here
todo, podemos ver
have
también
not
lo que ha ido
lived
saliendo desde
every single
los
thing
otros
that has been said,
espacios de trabajo.
but we've heard what the
¿Qué
other
podemos
spaces
hacer?
have been done.
Pues
What
podemos
can we
valorar,
do? We
podemos
can assess
comentar,
them, we
podemos
can
dar
comment on them,
apoyo a
we can
un
support
reto, podemos
a certain challenge,
poner en
we
valor
can
también los puntos negativos que tiene ese reto,
also
podemos continuar
underline
ese
the
espacio de
negative
deliberación a través de la plataforma online.
things that a certain
¿Cómo lo
challenge could
hacemos?
have,
Pues
the negative
reto, por
aspects
ejemplo,
that could be in a certain
hemos
challenge.
analizado las
For
relaciones de
example,
tensiones
just to
entre
give you an example,
distintos,
the relationships of the tensions
agentes. Yo veo
between
reto,
different
leo
agents.
las
This is
palabras
the
claves que han salido
challenge,
aquí,
the
me puedo
key words that
adherir
appear.
o
Do I can
comentar
adhere,
a
join?
este reto en sí.
Adherirse is
Cualquier acción
join,
que yo haga aquí
and
me
any
tendré
action
que
I take
registrar.
here
Yo
will
no puedo adherirme
require
si no
me
tengo un usuario en la
to
plataforma.
register, and
¿Vale?
I need to
Como os he
register in the
dicho,
platform. As I said,
esta plataforma
this
protege
platform
de manera extrema
will
los datos de los
extremely
usuarios, con lo cual
protect your
no puede haber luego ninguna
personal data.
manipulación de
There
la
can be no possible
información
manipulation
aquí
of the
introducida.
information that you may introduce
¿Queréis
in
estar al día
here.
de todo lo que está pasando? ¿Que queréis
If you want to be
estar como
updated
súper
on what's
al
happening,
día de cuando hay un comentario, cuando la gente valora?
if
Muy
you want to
fácil.
be updated
Aquí en
even
la
of the
pan-
comments
en la
people
pantalla principal del proceso,
make
aquí se ve un
here,
poquito justito
that
porque
in the
la
central
pantalla es así,
screen,
pero lo veréis más bien en
you can
vuestro
do this as
ordenador.
well.
Hay una
I
opción
can-
de seguir.
there's an option of
Cuando
following.
yo le doy a seguir a
When I
este proceso
push
en concreto,
follow here on the
cada vez
right,
que haya una actividad en la
every time there's an
plataforma,
activity
recibiré un correo electrónico
happening
y
in the
estaré
platform, I
informada
will
de
receive
los
an email
movimientos que aquí se dan.
telling me
Dicho
about the
esto,
movements
como he dicho al
happening
principio, esto es una propuesta para
and
poder
the
trabajar
platform.
hacia
This is
el
a proposal
2020.
in order to work towards
Hemos pensado esta
2020,
manera de
the
trabajar,
2020
seguramente
meeting.
se nos han escapado miles de maneras
We've
distintas
probably
de poder configurar
left
hacia el
out many
2020.
other ways of doing
En la
this,
plataforma
many other
encontraréis un correo
possible
electrónico
configurations. This
donde
platform has an
nos
email
podéis
address
dirigir a
where you
nosotras
can
y poder-
write
y
to
para
us,
poder crear estos espacios que nos hemos olvidado
and then maybe
de
you can help us
poner
create those spaces that
hoy
we've maybe
mismo en la
forgot
plataforma.
to include in this
Y
platform.
bueno, dicho esto, os invito a que entréis, que
So I will
valoréis
invite you
los distintos retos que han ido
come
saliendo estos días
in,
y
assess the different
continuemos
challenges and to
el debate rico que hemos tenido
continue
este fin de
the
semana,
rich debate
también
we've
más allá
had this
en la
last
plataforma
weekend
virtual.
and beyond
Gracias.
this in this virtual platform. Thank you very much.
Gracias, muchas gracias Nuria por el
Thank you
esfuerzo
so much,
en lo
Nuria,
vital. Los
for
cuidados están al
your
centro
very
y ella tiene
important
que estar con su hijo
and
ahora. O sea, que
vital
muchísimas
effort. You need
gracias
to go
por el esfuerzo y el
to
retraso.
your son now, so
Bueno,
I'll let you go.
soy
I'm
Fernando,
sorry for the delay.
algunos me conocéis
My
por otros
name is
hitos, ¿no? Como
Fernando.
presentar el acto
Some
inaugural
of you
o dejar que
know
mi
me
hijo corra en
already.
círculo poniéndolos el corazón a todos en un puño de si iba a caer o no iba a caer. la cámara que teníamos en el centro, ahora me toca otro rol. Me toca
My role
el
today
rol
is the
de
role
ser la palabra del grupo
is
impulsor
to be the
y
word
como
of
voy a
the
ser palabra de
promoting group,
muchos,
and I am going to be
como voy a
the
ser palabra de muchos, les voy
spokesperson
a
of
pedir que
many, so I
salgan
will ask them to
para
come
arroparme, porque si
here
no, aquí en el medio
to
me siento un poco solo.
to come
Entonces
around
le
me,
pido
so I will feel
a
their
Carlos, a
warmth and
María de
support.
Reas, a Eria, Jason de Ripes, que
Llame
forman parte del grupo impulsor,
Herreras,
o que
Jason
significamos
from
un
Ripes.
poco este enlace
These
de
people from
redes,
the
que
convener
somos la
group.
misma, ¿no? Ripes, nivel intercontinental,
Ripes at the
europeo,
continental level, at the
CHES, la
European
red de
level,
ámbito
the CHES,
catalán,
the Catalan
REAS, red de
network,
ámbito estatal.
and the state
Y le
network.
pido también, si pueden,
I
no
would
se lo
ask
hemos
you
dicho,
also
no se lo hemos dicho, a los enlaces de las confluencias que han sido más locales que internacionales, pero que tienen que ser el
local
fermento, que
convergence
son Nuria,
groups
David,
to come, Nuria, David,
Mónica,
and the
Miguel,
leaders of these
Alba
groups, the
y
leaders.
Noelia. Son las personas que están dedicando un
This-
tiempo a que las confluencias locales de
They
Barcelona
are
hayan funcionado y
spending
hayan
their
llegado hasta
time,
aquí. Y a partir
and
de ahora
thanks to them,
esperemos que
these
sean también
convergence movements
las
have been
personas con que
possible.
cuando
And
volgáis a
now
vuestros
we hope
territorios
that when you go back
vosotros
to
empecéis a interlocutar
where you
para
come
construir esta
from,
trama que
you
tiene
will
que ir
start
de lo
building this network
local a lo internacional.
that has to be
¿Vale?
built from what's local to what's international.
Bien. Entonces, ahora ya estoy más arropado y me siento más tranquilo. Estamos cansados, llevamos 3 días, algunos llevamos mucho tiempo y
We've been
ver
working on
que
this
esto
for a long
empieza a
time,
encarnarse
so
y a
seeing
tomar
that this is
cuerpo y
starting to
vida
take shape,
en todas las que estáis aquí, pues no deja de generar una
through
emoción
all of
bastante
you,
significativa.
people who are here,
Entonces,
it's very
voy a
important.
intentar
It's
controlar la
very
emoción. Me he dejado a Nina de la CHES también de lo emocionado que estaba, que le
Amina
pedía
from the
que
chess was
nos
very moved.
arropara.
So I would like
Vale. Entonces,
to
para
be
una
here
cuestión
as well.
práctica, el
Just for
streaming está
practical
allí, nos
reasons,
piden si podemos
streaming is over there, so they
arroparme
are
un poquito
asking
más
us
desde aquí.
to face that way.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, pues quitado el nervio inicial,
So-
quitados los problemas estos técnicos, o nos sentamos en el suelo si
Now we
queréis,
can
no
sit on
sé,
the floor if you
para que
like,
la gente pueda ver.
so
Venga.
that people can see.
Vale. ¿Cómo hemos llegado hasta aquí? Esto tiene un origen y
How
tiene un
have we
marco.
reached this
El
point?
origen
This has
y el
an
marco
origin
son
and a
los foros
framework. The
sociales
origin and the
mundiales.
framework are the World
Es el
Social
origen y el
Forums.
marco donde
They
también
are the
nacen
origin and the framework where
muchas de las
also
redes
many of the
estamos
networks
intentando que participen
were
de este
born.
proceso. En
Those
concreto,
networks
en Quebec,
wanted
2012,
to be part of this
un espacio
process.
de
In Quebec,
confluencias lanza la
2011,
idea
a convergence
de generar
space
un
launched
foro
the idea of
temático
generating a
sobre
theme
economía.
forum on
Esta idea la recoge
Economy.
Ripes Intercontinental
transformative
y esta
economies.
idea
This
aterriza
idea
vía Ripes
landed
a la red
through
catalana, la
Ripes
Xarxa de Economía Solidaria de
on
Cataluña.
the CHES, the Catalan Network of
La
Solidarity
Comisión de
Economy.
Relaciones Externas de la
The
Xarxa,
Commission
que como
of External
como
Relationships,
podéis imaginar, es
as you
una
can
comisión
imagine,
pequeñita
it's a small
de
commission,
6 o 7
6
personas,
or 7 people,
en los cuales todos dedicamos nuestro
where
tiempo de
we
forma
all
libre y
spend
voluntaria.
our time to
Recogemos
this
la
in a
petición,
free and
nos
voluntary way.
emocionamos con ella
We became very
y
excited
comenzamos
with
la
this
dura
idea, and we
tarea
started
de emocionar
the
primero a todas las personas
task
que tenemos
to
cerca
make
y luego de
everyone around
emocionar
us excited
a
as
todo el
well,
resto del
and then
mundo
to
con la
make
idea,
all
¿no?
the rest of
Porque
the
no deja de
world
ser una idea
excited,
mundial.
because this is a world
Y ahí
idea.
hemos estado un año.
And this
Lo
is
que veis
what we've
ahora
been doing in the last
lleva
year.
un año
So what you see now
trabajándose
is
desde
something we've been doing
relación de comisiones
for a
externas de la
year,
CHES,
from the
REAS,
external
red de
commission
redes,
of
su
the
representación
Catalan
en el Comité
Network,
Federal,
the
Ripes
REITs,
aportando en los
Ripes,
diferentes niveles
who,
intercontinental
which
y
have been
europeo, y es
contributing
un
at
año
world and
para llegar
continental
a elaborar
European
una
level,
mínima
and
propuesta,
this
¿no? Una hipótesis, que es lo que
was
siempre
to
decimos, ¿no?
elaborate a
Lanzar esa
hypothesis, a
de
proposal
los 4 ejes y las
of the
2
4
acciones
axes
transformadoras,
and the 2
que era como
transformative
la hipótesis
actions,
que os lanzábamos para
which
llegar
were
hasta
the
aquí,
hypotheses we were
y
launching
un
to you
poquito
to come
de
to where
pensamiento
we've
estratégico metodológico,
to reach
ver
where we've
cómo
come,
podíamos hacer
and
que
a
de
bit of
aquí,
strategic thought to start
pues
thinking
pudiera salir algo útil para seguir caminando,
to
¿no?
get to something
Siempre
useful, to keep
con la
on
idea de que
walking,
nuestra
always with the
propuesta,
idea that our proposal,
evidentemente, es
obviously,
completa,
is incomplete.
es,
It's
por
never
fuerza un poco desconectada
a bit
de la
disconnected
base,
from
no hemos tenido tiempo
the base
de que en
because
nuestras
we
redes se hayan hecho
haven't had
procesos
enough
amplios
time
de
for
decisión
our
colectiva
networks
para emerger.
to
Entonces es un
make
poquito
broad
incompleta,
collective
es un
decisions, so it's a bit
poquito
incomplete
desconectada,
and a bit disconnected.
pero que nace con esa voluntad
However, it has
de
this
ser un
will
punto de
of
partida
being a
y no
starting
un punto
point
de llegada,
and
¿no?
not
No estábamos
an
haciendo
end
el foro
point.
aquí.
This is not the forum
Estábamos en
itself.
una reunión
We are at
preparatoria
a
de lo que
preparatory
tiene que ser
meeting
otro hito en
of
el camino
what the
en el
next
año
milestone
2020,
is going to be
de lo que tiene
in
que ser
2020,
el
what
Foro Social
the
Mundial
World
de
Social
Economías
Forum of
Transformadoras,
Transformative
que ojalá
Economies,
sea otro
and we
hito
all
en el
hope that
camino
this will
también
be
de
a
ese
big
camino hacia
milestone in
una
that
profunda
path
transformación
towards a
de un mundo
deep
que no nos
transformation
gusta,
of a world that we
que nos
don't
guste.
like
Ese es
because
el
it's not a
motivo
fair
por el que
world, and
estamos
this is why we are here.
Entonces, esta es un poco la explicación de
Okay,
qué nos
so
ha hecho
that
llegar hasta aquí, ¿no?
is
Hemos
the part
estado 4
explaining
días.
how we've reached here. We've
Llegar
had
hasta aquí
these
es
3
intenso
days.
y
It's been an
es cansado,
intense
pero
work,
tenemos ganas
very tiring
de
work,
seguir, parece,
but
la
we
situación general, ¿no?
also
Hemos
want
estado
to
aquí
move
debatiendo
forward.
en
We've had
intensidad y tal,
many
y nos
interesting
vamos a volver a
discussions
nuestros
here,
territorios,
and now we will go back
y muchos
home.
os vais con esta
And
pregunta,
I'm
bueno, ¿y
sure
ahora
many of
qué,
you
qué
will be
hago?
leaving
Tal,
saying,
¿no?
okay, so what do I do
Cuesta
next?
responderla, ¿no? Desde
It's
este
difficult
comité
to find
impulsor,
an
desde
answer, and
estos
from the
enlaces locales, ¿no?
convener
Cuesta
group and the
porque
local
eso es lo que hemos
partners,
estado construyendo.
this is what we
Necesitamos
have
un tiempo para
been
digerir
building, and we need some
todas,
time
digerir lo
now
que hemos
to
hecho,
digest
pero tenemos
everything that's
algunas
been
ideas.
discussed here, but we
Esperamos
do have
que
some
sirvan para que el
ideas
proceso
that
pueda
may
seguir avanzando.
help you to
La primera
make this
es
process
enviaros un cuestionario de evaluación.
advance. We will be
¿Qué ha
sending you an
pasado? ¿Qué os ha
assessment
gustado? ¿Qué no os ha gustado?
form,
Intentaremos que sea una evaluación
survey.
cuantitativa y cualitativa.
We want you to
Y
answer
es
this
superimportante
survey.
que
We want
nos
it to
hagáis
be
el
a
retorno de eso,
participatory
porque será
survey
la-
and a
de las
qualitative
pocas
survey, and it's
vías de
really
contacto más
important that
directo,
you
más directo y más inmediato.
send us your
Sí que nos comprometemos a intentarlo enviar bastante
input
rápido.
and your
Por favor,
comments.
hacerlo también
We'll try sending it out
caliente, ¿no?
quickly,
Los
so
sentimientos y las
please
emociones todavía
make sure
frescas
you answer
nos
the
ayudará mucho.
survey as soon as
Nos
possible so
comprometemos también a
that
enviaros
you can
los retornos
convey
y
all
las
of your
relatorías
comments. So
y que se han elaborado de forma colectiva,
all of
usando la
the
plataforma de Decidim,
we have the
seguramente,
virtual
y quizás por
platform
otros medios,
which
y
is
también a que
developed,
tengáis
and we
acceso al
can
listado de los
work on, and we'll
participantes
also
para
give
poder
you a
continuar el
list
trabajo
of
que se ha hecho aquí.
participants so that you can
Las personas que habéis
continue
establecido los
with the
contactos con
work
los que han
we've done
estado y no habéis
here.
podido contactar, pero si
So
nos
you
dais
have
el
the full
permiso,
list.
si alguien
If
no quiere, evidentemente,
anyone
los inscritos
objects
que
and
nos lo
doesn't
digan,
want to
pero queríamos
see their
compartir
name
el
on the
listado de
list or doesn't want
participantes.
the list to be
También pedir
distributed, you can
disculpas,
tell us.
nos hubiera gustado hacerlo
We would
antes,
have
pero no
liked to have
llegamos, lo
sent
hacemos
the
después.
list of participants earlier before the event, but it
Y
wasn't
poco más
possible.
que decir, no sé cómo voy de
And
tiempos.
not much more on my side. I don't know
Sobra
how
un
we're
montón.
doing
Me habían
time-wise.
dicho que hablara media hora.
They told me
Quizá
to
demasiado
speak
rápido.
for half an hour,
Pues quizás, mira, mejor así y dejo un espacio
so I'll leave it there,
por si alguien quiere hablar.
and I'll
¿Qué
leave more time
pedimos
for the
más?
next speaker. What
Pedimos
else?
que creéis confluencias locales.
We want you to
Si
create
de verdad os tenemos que
local
pedir algo desde el comité
convergences.
impulsor,
If
es que la
there's one
transformación
important
se
thing
realiza desde allá donde
that we would
estamos.
ask you from
Y
the
ese
convener
eje
group is
local global
to
sigue siendo una
work
hipótesis de
at
trabajo
the
que
local level
consideramos
and link it
acertada.
back to the
Con lo
global
cual,
level. It's essential that
los
we
espacios
link
virtuales
the
son una
local
herramienta.
and global
Los retos que hemos
areas. The
fijado
virtual
son una
tools are an
herramienta, las
excellent tool for
metodologías
this.
de
The
las que tantos
challenges we
hablamos son una
identified
herramienta
are
y sobre
also a
todo
tool for this.
el grupo impulsor, o el
And
grupo promotor o lo que
the
acabe siendo esto es
convener
otra
group
herramienta. Lo importante
is
es
there to
que
help.
seamos
What's
capaces de
important
generar procesos
is
de
that we
base
can generate grassroots
autónomos,
or
potentes, conectados con
independent,
las realidades
powerful
locales donde estamos
instruments that
y
are
con
closely
idea.
tied into the local realities.
¿Eh? Sí, me la he dejado, vale. Y conectados con esta metodología.
And
Me he dejado una
connected to our
propuesta de
methodology.
devolución.
I
Me lo
left
apuntan. Muchas
out
gracias,
one
importante. Intentaremos
proposal, and that
trabajar
is that we
la
will
idea de
be
gobernanza que ayer
trying
por la
to
tarde,
will be try to work
personas del grupo
working
impulsor compartieron con los
on
grupos, que se
the
puso a
aspect of
debate,
governance, which was
se
discussed
cuestionó
yesterday evening.
evidentemente y a
Many
la que se
people
aportó
questioned
de una forma muy
this
rica.
issue of
Vamos a
governance
intentar
and made
también
interesting
digerir todo
contributions.
eso
So
y hacer un
again,
retorno,
we'll try
una propuesta de
digesting all
retorno
of
de lo
this
que podría ser
information and come
una
back to
gobernanza
you
que haga
with
posible
a
seguir el
proposal
proceso, ¿no?
on
Hemos llegado hasta
governance
aquí
to
con
make
una,
this
necesitamos
process move
también
forward.
moverla. Entonces, os llamábamos eso, a la creación de confluencias
So,
locales.
as I was saying, we want you to create
Y
local
esta creación nos la
convergences,
pedimos que se haga
and we
sin
would
ningún
like
miedo.
this
Nosotros
to be
pusimos
done
una
with
hipótesis que
no
eran los
fear.
4
We
grandes
came up with a
movimientos y las
hypothesis,
dos
these
acciones
4
transformadoras.
large
Esta
axes
propuesta
and the 2 transformative
sirvió o
actions.
ha servido para llegar hasta aquí.
This
A partir de
proposal
ahora
has
las
taken taken us
influencias
up to
locales tienen
now.
que ser
And
capaces
from now on,
de
the
hacer
local
que la realidad
convergences
del movimiento, con las
must
acciones que
find a way
realizamos cada día
of
en lo
making
concreto
our
para transformar la
everyday
sociedad,
actions to
emerjan y se visibilicen.
transform
Y si
the world
tenemos
to
que
gain
añadir más ejes,
visibility,
seguramente, o más acciones,
for sure
no
we'll
sé
want
cómo
to
acabará
add
ese esquema,
new axes or
pero
new
para eso estamos
transformative
trabajando
actions.
para que pueda
We
ser
don't know
rico
what it'll be
y
like at the
recoja
end,
vuestras
but that is
aportaciones.
why we think it's so important that you
Sí
can
que
make your
queríamos destacar el
contributions.
foco en
We
tres
did
cuestiones
want
que han
to
salido y que nos parecen
focus on
centrales y
3
cruciales
central
de
points
mantener y en las que
that
pondremos
should be
especial cuidado.
maintained and for which we need to be
Se ha
extra
puesto un foco
careful.
muy claro
There was a
en los
clear
cuidados y en la
focus
diversidad,
on
¿no?
care and diversity.
Y esto me lo aplico en principio a nosotros, ¿no? Y a
And this
nuestros cuidados
principle
como
applies
equipo
to
técnico,
us and the
el
care
grupo
we have
impulsor,
provided
y
as
las
the
tensiones
technical team and
necesarias e
the
innecesarias que se
convener
generan en un
groups. And
proceso
there are
así,
always
con
tensions
unos
in a
picos de
process
trabajo y
like
unas
this with
exigencias que
peaks
hacen que a
of
veces
work and very
esto de poner la
demanding
persona al centro que tanto
situations,
decimos
and we always talk
se
about
nos pase un
putting
poquito por los
people at the
aires
center,
y
and
pasemos por
sometimes
encima de las
we
personas, ¿no? Entonces,
overrun
primero
people
los
by
cuidados hacia
mistake.
dentro y luego
So,
los cuidados hacia afuera,
and the other,
cuidar más
taking
la acogida,
care,
trabajar desde el principio cómo vamos a acoger
l-
tantas personas y
organizing
tanta
how
diversidad,
we are going to
porque no queremos
welcome
hacer
so many
una
people and
feria y un congreso
such a lot
al
of
uso como se realizan
diversity. We
tanto
don't
en
want
esta
to
ciudad
have
y que
just
consideramos una
another
industria
regular, normal
extractiva y
conference
depredadora de lo que vivimos.
that
Queremos hacer
continues
un
feeding this
encuentro
extractivist
y
and
una
pre-data
acogida
economy.
de
We
una
want
forma
to have
diferente
a
a todos
different
y todas las que
meeting,
estén
and we want
dispuestas a venir a
to
Barcelona
welcome
en el 2020.
everyone to Barcelona
Entonces,
in
ese
a
foco
different way
claro en
too. So
cuidados,
there's
metodología,
has to be a clear
diversidad,
focus
acogida.
on care,
Perdón, cuidados, diversidad y
methodology,
acogida. El otro
diversity.
gran bloque
The
es
other big
metodología y gobernanza.
issue is
Está
methodology
claro
and
que
governance.
necesitamos que se
It
incorporen
is clear
más redes
that we
al
need
grupo impulsor.
more
Está claro que
networks to
necesitamos
join
definir
the
claro cuáles
convener
son los
group.
espacios de gobernanza.
We have to
Está
decide
claro
which
que
will be
necesitamos
our
establecer una
governance
metodología
spaces,
para
and we
que
have to come
lo que
up with a
surja del trabajo
methodology
real y concreto
so
de
that
los-
the
de
real
las
and
confluencias
concrete
locales
work
tenga
that
su
is done
reflejo
at the local
en la
convergences
estructura final
can
de lo que
then
vamos a hacer.
find a reflex
Entonces,
in
todo eso
the
es una prioridad que tenemos que trabajar juntos y
methodology.
a la que
So
prestaremos
these are
también especial
priorities that
atención.
we have to
Y
work
luego
on
os
together.
lanzamos un reto, que
And
es una
we pose a
devolución,
challenge to you
que es que os
all as well.
pedimos
We would
autonomía.
ask you
Y esto forma
for
parte de nuestro deber.
autonomy.
Autonomía en la organización local y
Autonomy
autonomía
in the
en la
local
gestión de
organization
recursos.
and autonomy
Desde
in
el grupo
terms of
impulsor
resource management.
es difícil
From
que
the
podamos
convener group, it's very
conseguir todos los
difficult
recursos
that we can
necesarios
find all of
para
the
todo el
resources
mundo.
we need for everyone.
Entonces, los territorios
So,
tienen que construir desde
territories
la autonomía
have
y la
to
propuesta de la autogestión tiene eso en
self-manage
su
and
interior y somos profundamente
be
autogestionarios. Entonces
autonomous.
pedimos a todos los
So
territorios
we would like to
buscar la autonomía
ask
financiera y la autonomía
all
organizacional
ask all
para que en
territories to
2020
find
pueda
the
venir. Y no solo
organizational and
reclamar,
financial autonomy
¿no?, a la
to be able to
organización,
come here,
a una
not
centralidad que tiene que
only
proveer.
appeal to the
Pues
organizers
esto
for
era
help.
un poquito lo que queríamos compartir.
That is what we wanted to share with you all,
Y eso,
and
pensar y iros con la idea de que estamos hablando de un movimiento plural. Hablamos de
remind you all
economías
that we are talking
transformadoras.
of
Ponemos
a
una
plural
S
movement,
al final de las
transformative
dos.
economies with an S.
Y que evidentemente
This
esta pluralidad
plurality
nos tiene que hacer salir a todos y todas de nuestros espacios de
should
confort.
pull us
¿no? Lo
out
que
of our
queremos es mezclarnos,
comfort zones. We
contaminarnos,
want
no
to,
definir perímetros
we don't want
cerrados,
closed ideological
El
silos. We want to
avance
exit our
salvaje de las
comfort zone.
propuestas
We have
neoliberales,
to
neofascistas,
come up with
capitalistas es
proposal
brutal. Y
against
lo que
the
estamos pidiendo es
neoliberal
rearmémonos.
capitalist
Y para
fascist
rearmarnos tenemos que sumar.
arguments, because they're on the
Entonces,
rise and we have
no
to
sabemos
face
sumar
up to them.
si no es poniendo el foco
And we
en
will
la
only
práctica.
be able
Casi
to
todas las que estamos aquí
become
estamos en la
stronger
práctica real cotidiana en nuestros
if we
barrios, en nuestros
put
territorios,
things into
en nuestras
practice. We do very
ciudades, y
practical
desde allí
things in our
queremos
neighborhoods,
construir.
in our towns,
Entonces,
in our cities.
no queremos un espacio
We
construido
don't
por grandes
want
teorías
a
políticas, os pedimos un
space
espacio
that
de
is full of
visibilización de las prácticas y de
big
compartir
theoretical
los saberes que estas prácticas, los tesoros
premises.
que
No,
estas
we
pequeñas prácticas
want to
cotidianas
hear from
y ya reales de
everyday
transformación
experiences and
pueden
practices that
aportar.
are already put
Y
in
es en esa clave que
practice
pedimos
and
que
how they can
compartáis.
contribute to these
Con lo cual,
transformative economies.
tenemos un objetivo común que es
We
caminar
all
un poquito
share the
más
same
juntas.
goal, and that is to
Caminar
walk
juntas quiere
hand
decir
in hand,
dejarse el espacio para que
and
todas podamos caminar
leaving
juntas,
space for
como dicen
everyone
los
to walk
conquistapatistas,
together
¿no? Un poco al ritmo del más lento,
and
¿no? Sin vanguardias,
follow the
sin ideas,
pace
sin
of
soluciones
the
finales
ones
ya
that are
preestablecidas,
slower, with no
y
preconceived
atravesando un poco ese
ideas,
terreno
no
de los
barriers.
miedos.
And we
Es
have to learn
normal,
to overcome
estamos
fears.
intentando hacer algo que no se
It's
ha
normal
hecho
because
nunca.
this what we are
Transitar un
trying to
terreno
do
que
has
nunca
never
hemos
been
transitado
done before.
y organizar
And
de una
we
forma diferente una
want
reunión
to
colectiva y un
organize
movimiento
a collective
amplio y
meeting and a
transformador.
broad
Entonces, como todas
transformative
tenemos miedo,
movement in a
nosotros
different
los que
way.
estamos en el grupo
I mean,
impulsor
we
y todos
all
los que nos
feel
vamos a
fear,
casa,
those who are
pues
in the convener
quitémonos un
group,
poco
and
los
I'm
miedos
sure
para
many others. So we
transitar
have
ese
to
desconocido
shed
y
our
poder tener
fears
el germento o
and
el fermen de algo que sea tan
sow
sumamente
the
distinto y
seed of something
diferente
that
a la
will be
sociedad en que vivimos
so
que no la
different
podamos
to
ni
how
reconocer,
society,
porque no nos gusta.
how to society as we know it.
Y ya está. Hasta
Actually, it's
aquí.
transformative, and that's
No
all
sé,
I wanted to say.
seguimos. Me he emocionado un poco al final. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Pues gracias Fernando.
Thank you,
gracias
Fernando,
al grupo
and
impulsor,
thanks
a
to
las redes
the
que tenéis
convener
detrás, a
group
los
and all of the
enlaces, a las
networks and the
confluencias,
leads and the
por todo el trabajo
convergences
hecho
for all of the
para
work
llegar
you've
hasta
done
aquí.
to make it possible to
Y
reach
como-
where we are.
Y como queremos seguir, pues
And we want
seguimos,
to
si os parece.
move
Si
forward,
pudierais salir
so
aquí en medio,
if
si me acompañáis un poquito, que es un poco
you could come
extraño
here
estar aquí. Alguna
to the
persona de cada
center,
una de las
someone from
confluencias
each
locales.
of the local
Creo que había
convergences
6,
join me here at the
sí,
center.
Europa,
6, I have
África,
Europe, Africa,
Asia, América
Asia,
del Norte,
North
Cataluña y
America,
Estado español
Catalonia and
y
Spain,
Latinoamérica y el
and
Caribe.
Latin America and the
Si pudiera
Caribbean. So
salir una persona
one
de cada
person
confluencia
from
local
each of
aquí
these
conmigo.
continental
Tu.
convergences, please come and join me at the center here.
Vale. La idea es que podáis hablar cada una de lo
The
que habéis
idea
hecho
is
esta
to
mañana en
give you some time to
vuestros
explain
grupos
what
y
the
estábamos
discussions
calculando
were in your
como
group.
unos 3 minutos para
We
cada
thought
uno.
perhaps 3 minutes
El
for each
tiempo.
of you.
Sí. Vale. ¿Quién empieza? Ay. Sí. Vale. Sí, sí. ¿Qué?
Sí, somos 3 para
So,
los 3 minutos.
The 3 of us.
Queremos
for 3 minutes.
decirles desde la
What
reunión
we
de
want to say
Latinoamérica y
from
el
the
Caribe
territorial
que fue
meeting
una
of
reunión
Latin American
productiva,
and the Caribbean.
muy
It was
positiva
a very
y
constructive
que
and very
nuestra reunión
positive
y nuestro
meeting,
encuentro de hoy de mañana
and
empezó desde el día que
our
llegamos,
meeting started from the
que nuestra reunión
time
de
we
hoy de
got here.
mañana
Our meeting today
empezó
and
el día que
tomorrow
llegamos
actually
a este
started
foro,
the day
a este
we all
encuentro.
disembarked
Que una de
in
las cosas
Barcelona.
positivas
One of the
de este
positive
encuentro
things of this
fue
meeting
también
was
encontrarnos
also having
desde
the
los que
opportunity
compartimos la
to-
misma
for
territorialidad.
those that share and live in the same territory
Decirles
to meet.
que
I'd like to say
nosotros nos juntamos para
that we
encontrar propuestas de cómo
got
seguir
together to
trabajando
look
el
at
día de mañana.
proposals on how to
Las
continue
escribimos,
working
las
in
vamos a
the
sistematizar,
future. We
compartirla
wrote them
con todos
down, we'll
ustedes, pero ahora
systematize
vamos a
them and
dar
share with you.
un rápido paneo.
And now we'd like to give
Decirles
you
que
a
nos
brief
comprometemos
summary.
a
We
buscar confluencias,
are
pero sobre
committed
todo
to
a
creating
confluir.
convergences.
Que
Yes.
queremos confluir
And to
desde
converge
dos
ourselves.
lugares,
We want to
desde
converge
lo
from two
territorial y
levels,
desde
at the
las
territorial
prácticas.
levels, and
Las
also
prácticas, todas las
converge our
prácticas,
practices,
las
all
prácticas de todos los
practices,
ejes que hablamos, pero también
the
las
existing
prácticas de la
practices in
construcción
all of the
económica.
axes that
Y
we've
para terminar, y le
discussed,
paso a las
and
propuestas, decirles
looking
que
at the
queremos vencer
proposals, we
la tentación
want to
de lo
overcome
fundacional.
the
Hoy no estamos fundando
temptation of believing
Estamos
that we are
refortaleciendo,
creating something
estamos
new. But no, we're not.
rejuntándonos.
We are strengthening ourselves.
Queremos
We are bringing
decirles
things
que
together,
vamos a construir
and we will
sí, y a
be
mejorar nuestros
building
lazos, pero
and
desde nuestras historias.
improving our
Y para que el Foro
relationships,
2020 sea
and
un
for
momento
this
importante de nuestra
forum
vida,
to be an
hoy también
important
este lo
moment
tiene que
in
ser.
our
Y
lives.
las
Today,
formas
this
en que
moment also has to
construyamos
be
son
an
muy
important moment,
importantes
and
en el resultado
the
de lo que
ways
vayamos
we
a lograr.
build
Muchas
this
gracias.
work for the next year will be very important in terms of the outcome of the forum. Thank you.
Bueno, lo que le voy a compartir es
What I
ya
wanted
como
to
más
share with
concretas
you
algunas de las reflexiones que hicimos.
some of
Y bueno,
the
hubieron
thoughts that emerged in our group.
reflexiones, hubieron también
We
propuestas,
came up with
incluso hubieron
proposals
como
and
algunas líneas
ideas,
de cuál podría ser la metodología
and
para
we
poder llevar a cabo esas
came up with a
conferencias.
methodology
Entonces,
to
rápidamente que me
make
dijeron un
these
minuto.
convergence happen.
Hablamos del tema de la inclusión de
We
actores, y ahí
talked
se
about
levantó todo un listado.
including
Por ejemplo, se habló de incluir la población
actors,
LGBT, personas
include
migrantes, algunas
LGBT
experiencias de empresas
persons,
recuperadas,
migrant
personas jóvenes,
persons,
y
youth,
niños y niñas,
and children,
entre
boys
otras
and
expresiones
girls,
más comunitarias y que incorpore el componente étnico.
and ethnic
Se habló también de
diversity.
generar
We
propuestas
also
desde lo económico,
came
no solamente como
up with the idea of
la
coming up
reflexión
with
a
proposals,
veces teórica
economic
o hablar de
proposals,
economía
but
solidaria,
also
sino propuestas concretas, económicas,
concrete
de intercambio, de
economic
finanzas,
proposals,
etcétera.
different
Y
currencies, for
muy importante
instance, or
fue que
exchanges.
se compartió la
And
idea
we
de generar un colectivo de
discussed about
enlace
creating a
desde
liaison
América
collective
Latina para poder seguir
from
trabajando.
Latin America
Entonces,
so that
hubo
we
como
can
una
continue
voluntad
working. So
expresa
there was
para que los
an
diferentes
express
países sigamos
will
conectados a
for
través de un
all of
colectivo,
our countries in
no
Latin
tanto para
America
generar una
to
visión
stay in
común,
touch,
sino para
not to
construir
come up with a
desde el
joint vision,
reconocimiento mutuo
but
de las
to
diversidades que
recognize
fueron
and
recogidas.
acknowledge all of the different diversities that are present on the continent
Bueno, por
and
ahí de otras
use
cosas,
them
también
in what we
quisiera
do.
mencionar bueno, el tema de una herramienta
We
que
also
dejó un compañero que es para
discussed
facilitar
a tool
precisamente ese intercambio.
that could
Quería
facilitate
extenderla,
this
pero no lo voy a hacer. Y
exchange.
lo último, nada más, una
And
invitación
last but not
que
least,
quisiéramos como
we would like to extend an
externar en este espacio,
invitation
que es precisamente que cuando hagamos las propuestas,
when we
que
come up
ojalá no
with
la hagamos
proposals.
como si se lo hiciéramos a alguien externo, no
Let's
hagamos las propuestas a una organización central,
not
sino
make
que
the
las asumamos
proposals
responsablemente,
thinking of
porque
an
precisamente la
external
construcción del foro
agent,
depende de cómo
because
nosotros
the success of the
tomemos en
forum
nuestras propias manos
will
ese proceso de
depend
construcción.
on
Gracias.
how we take ownership of this construction process. So we are building this for ourselves,
Bueno,
not
yo
for any external
rapidísimo,
agent.
una
Very
cosa
quickly,
con cuestión de identidad de territorio. Yo no sé
looking
cómo
at
le van a
the
hacer, pero
territorial
tienen
identities, I don't know
que
how you'll be
entender
doing
cómo
this,
está
but you must
dividida la cosa, ¿sí?
understand how
América Latina
it's
y el
divided.
Caribe,
Latin
¿sí?
American and the
Es
Caribbean
la región,
is the region.
pero México pertenece a
But
Norteamérica
Mexico belongs to
territorialmente.
North America
¿sí? O sea,
territorially
es
speaking.
Canadá, Estados Unidos,
Canada,
y México,
the US, and
Norteamérica.
Mexico
Luego
are
viene
North
Centroamérica
America.
y luego
Then
viene
you have
Sudamérica.
Central America
¿sí?
and you
Entonces,
have South
ahorita es la
America.
región latinoamericana
So
y el
now it's
Caribe,
the
y en
Latin
otra pusieron a
American
Canadá y
and
Estados Unidos.
Caribbean
¿sí?
region, and there was another
Bueno,
group
eso es
for
para
the
que
US
entiendan
and
la identidad
Canada,
territorial.
just so that you
Y la
understand the
otra que
territorial
queremos
identity. And
enfatizar
the
es
other thing
el
we
tipo de
wanted to
evento que queremos.
emphasize is the
Y para eso
type of
rapidísimo.
event that we want.
El fundamental es que podamos
Basically,
construir desde
we
el territorio
need to
de
build
nuestras prácticas
from our
económicas,
territories, from our
procesos de
economic
integración,
process. We have to come up with integration processes. We have to integrate our economic actions, consumer consumption, production. We have to have true economic activities. If this helps us to build and strengthen our economic actions, then we will be able to continue developing a global economic alternative. But if we do not have this process coming from the territories and strengthening activities, we may not make it in the end. So we have to do everything from the territorial level and joining us.
Bueno, buenas.
Hello.
Vale. Buenas. Desde el encuentro que hemos tenido de la península ibérica,
So the meeting for the Iberian Peninsula,
lo que hemos hecho,
Spain and Catalonia,
estábamos mayoría de personas de
most of
Cataluña.
us were from Catalonia.
Mayoría de personas. ¿Se oye bien? ¿Sí?
Can you hear me? Yes?
¿Se oye bien? ¿No se oye? ¿Sí?
Yes?
Vale. Pues éramos mayoría
Most
de
of us,
personas
as
de
I was
Cataluña y
saying,
lo
were
que
from
hemos hecho
Catalonia,
es empezar
and
por escuchar
we
las personas
started off
que eran de otros territorios de la
by
península
listening,
para saber
hearing people from other parts of this
qué
Iberian
potencialidad había
Peninsula
de
to
construir
see if there was a
confluencias ahí,
possibility
que estaban
of
ya
building
trabajando, de los ejes que aquí habíamos
convergences,
trabajado, etcétera,
looking
¿no?
at the
Y han hablado
thematic
personas de
axis,
Navarra,
We heard people from Navarra, from the Canary Islands, from Valencia, from the Basque Country, from Galicia, from Portugal as well. And I think, and then we heard also people from Andalusia, from Madrid, and from Madrid, as I was saying, and they also heard from our neighbors from southern France and there's a large community of Spaniards and Portuguese living in south of France, and they wanted to participate in the process. Next, what we did was to go through the work we did in each of the thematic axes here in Catalonia, and I think those who intervened, we pointed out our strengths and our weaknesses, the difficulties we've encountered in some of the axes. I won't go into details, but we had the pad where we took note of things, and we agreed to set up a mailing list to stay in touch. And there is a meeting that will be organized in Catalonia, and we'll invite our brothers and sisters from the rest of the Iberian Peninsula and use that time to have an update. And we've called on each of these territories to look at whether we know or could identify other people who could join the axis. And my time is up.
Oh, sorry. We also said that there could be axes that we haven't contemplated. One of them would be the need to build up a vibrate.
Thank you. I'm Denison Jayasuriya from Malaysia, and there were 6 Asians. Can I ask the Asians to stand up? Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, India. Yes. I've got 10 points. The first 5 points is what we agreed to contribute and do for the World Social Forum. Firstly, in Asia, ASEC will play a coordinating role at the regional level. Second, we have started to identify all the regional networks. You know, Asia has the largest population in the world. If you take India and China, then we have South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia. So we have started to identify and we would network. Thirdly, we identified existing national events. And so far, 3 countries represented here already have national events this year, and they would focus on transformative economy. In India, I think it's November, December, Indonesia in November, Malaysia sometime this year. Fourthly, we identified existing sub-regional events. ASEAN in Bangkok in June 2018, the World Chinese Economic Forum in Macau in November, November this year. This is all part of our network, and we will try and host events there. Fifthly, we will try our best to raise funds for our national and regional activities ourselves. But that's a bit tough. One more minute. I got 5 points. What we like the global team from here to assist us, materials, that would be simple, but we need to translate it beyond French, Spanish, English, because of other languages in Asia. Secondly, in terms of invitations for the 2020 May, that it should be sent out early because it takes a long time for visa processing, and we call on the organizers to relate with the Spanish embassies because people in Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines could not come. And also information on sponsorships, if it's coming from the central, the selection process and how many, at least by the end of this year, we should know that, and the visa application process. But I think the 6 of us said we are committed and we will try our best to facilitate this and get more to participate. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Eli, and there's 2 of us here from the US and Canada group. This is Rachel. I'm going to try to go quickly through this. We had a great, productive conversation, and I'm going to share some highlights that we wanted to bring back to the full group. We really enjoyed the song that happened. I'm too loud. Okay. Is this better? Okay. We really enjoyed the song that happened at the beginning of this session, and we would love the 2020 conference for the learning to not just happen in our heads in an intellectual way, but to happen with our bodies, our hearts, our feet, and to bring people into the center. So we had some conversation about the different axes, the taxonomy of the conference, and for us is actually a barrier for our organizing back home. Our organizing happens more in sectors like food and finance, land and housing, energy and utilities. And so maybe we want to bring a proposal or have some sort of conversation about, can we change the taxonomy of the conference? Is that possible? We don't know, but for us that was a barrier. We talked about, maybe this is a controversial point, but we had some concerns about capacity and how much work has to be done between now and May 2020, especially if the goal is to bring a common agenda or to build a common agenda. So much pre-work has to happen, and we don't want to, we want to make sure we have enough time to do that work together. This is an incredibly ambitious project that we're doing. So maybe a question that we should ask ourselves is, are we giving ourselves enough time? Should we delay? Should we wait till 2021? Is that even possible? We talked about 2020 being an opportunity to align our movements to transformative economies, and not just the movements that are already identifying with the language and frameworks, but like the climate movement and the food movement, and how do we get these other movements that are focused on particular issue areas to be talking about and thinking about the solutions that are happening all over the world. I'm gonna pass the mic, Rachel, if you want to say a couple of these things. But I want to make sure.
Okay, this was already said, but we want this to be. I just want people to be able to hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great. That we would love for this to be a space that youth would feel comfortable in, and for it to be able to be a truly intergenerational space. We feel strongly about that. We feel strongly about expanding the core committee so that it's more representative of our movements, of our sectors, of our identities, and of our geographies. Moving from an understanding of this, I've heard a lot at this gathering, of people saying they about the people who organize this, and so how can we arrive at the next, when we come together next, and say us, to really take ownership of it. What else am I missing? Can you take yours back? The last thing to say is just that, that forming a common agenda is not about a piece of paper. It's about aligning our movements to all be moving in the same direction. It's about what we do. And so the question that we wanted to bring is, what would be our transformative economic development goals? What would it look like to create a set of goals, an agenda that came out of this that we really could align our resources, our movements around, that would be rooted deeply in the principles and values of liberation? And that has much more to do with what we do in advance and what we do after than the moment itself. And I think,
And we want 2020 to be grounded in Barcelona, in the history and the struggle that's happening here. There's so much incredible work, and we feel like we didn't really get to experience that here when we're here, and so we should do that in 2020.
Hola. Bon, nous c'était l'Afrique et nous avons eu beaucoup de
We
chance.
come from Africa and we were very lucky. We were not so many, but we came each from a different region in Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, South of Africa, and also different parts of Africa. So we had our presentation. We were very lucky because we had a lot of Africans working with us, and we're very happy with the results. We posed the following questions. Are we really interested in convergence? Like we said the other day, in our culture, this is always interesting. It has always been. What we did this time is to think about how to work on this for 2020. Our first limitation was the participation of our young people, and some of the people who could not participate because of the visa. They were denied visas in the last minute. So for next time, they would need to know about this in advance. And for us, one of the priorities is the defense of the human rights, the defense of environment, and all these movements that will converge to a different vision of the life economy, the economy of life. Baba is in charge of the organization of people, the RAES, the RIPES, and he will tell us about this. Baba, I would like to complete our international network at the level of African continent, the RAES, as we just heard. We practically had all regions, West Africa, East Africa, and Northern Africa, as well as Central Africa. Eastern Africa is made up by more or less 30 countries operational. In each country we have organizations, which are local organizations based generally on cooperatives. Women cooperatives, mainly women, also young people organizations, and many of them dedicated to health issues. In terms of organization and the event for 2020, the first thing we told ourselves is we wanted to work on the mobilization. Our participation needs to be a quality participation, a massive participation in the 2020 forum, to be more visible, in our participation. So at the level of each continent, we decided to organize a meeting, a regional meeting, in order to allow first to send all the information for our bases, to all of our bases, to identify the contents. Above all, for the forum 2020, because it's a great meeting, a big international meeting, so it would be necessary to have specific proposals, because we know that and transformative economy, we want it to be a reality. And we need to fight against imperialism that is making everyone be on their knees. We think the same. We share this fight against imperialism. And we want to empower ourselves against it. We have worked on all. We launched already the youth movement. We've launched the idea of the youth movement. It's a philosophy that is clear in Africa, and it starts from a very important principle. Every generation has a mission to accomplish. Each generation can either accomplish it or betray this mission. So the participation of these young people has been very important and very representative, and also in terms of the world, and that was very important. Among others, some elements that we are preparing for 2020. We have reflected on different issues, and we will continue to do so. Thank you very much to everybody. We can move on with the different challenges we mentioned, but I want to remind you two different things first. Oh, sorry. We had nobody from Europe. Would anybody from Europe like to come out? You were here. Sorry.
Bueno, this is spontaneous. We had the advantage that we were many, but the disadvantage of not knowing each other very well. So it took a long time to introduce each other again, who we are and in which networks we are. And we didn't have much time left, and many questions and roles that have been spoken about here as well, or aspects like we need the youth, we need the climate movement, other movements, to feel that this is their meeting too, and this is what we want to focus on to bring them here. And some of us had well-working networks, others not. Some offered to use their websites also to communicate. But I mean, Europe is not that far away from Catalonia, so maybe it is speaking as well that we didn't form a union among ourselves, but that we from our regions, we can support the process here in Barcelona.
Me pongo en el puntito.
So I'll step on the dot. Before we move on to the challenges, just to remind you two things. First, please don't speak very loudly, because otherwise people trying to hear the interpretation cannot hear it. They will hear the floor sound much faster. There was someone acting as rapporteur and is taking a rest now. If somebody can take on the role of rapporteur. Oh, there is someone already? Okay. Are you doing it already? Is everything okay? Someone be taking notes? Okay, very well. Thank you. The pro-commons people always have their laptop with them. Thank you so much for all these last days. You have done lots of reporting. So thank you for that. Okay. So could I have one person from each of the challenges here at the center? There we have the 10 challenges. Can we have one from each challenge so we can share here at the center?
Gobernanza inclusiva y transformadora.
Inclusive and transformative governance, liberating inclusive education, building of knowledge and practices, global, local, work between public policies, the relationship with state and self-organization, own strategy, life at the center, visibility and story, and governance of the process for the 2020 forum. I can see 2 people already. Just to remind you that you have 3 minutes each maximum.
Okay,
My name is Noelia. I'm coming with Xavi from the City Council of Barcelona, from cities, and we are representing the transversal axis of public policies. We are part of the local, global work group and inter-movement group, and I only have 1 minute, which means we have 3 specific proposals. This is the analysis from our axis of public policies. First axis is we think that we all need to have a definition, a clear, agreed definition of what a public policy is. Our proposal is an answer from the government of the specific needs of the people and the planet. Our second proposal, we need to converge in one only website platform of public policies at a global level. We all know our spaces, our territories have different resources. The idea is to be able to enter all through one same door. Example, the website we just presented, where we can all access these resources in different places, and they can be inspiring practices for us. The third point will be explained by Xavi. Very quickly, our goal would be in 1 year to get to the point where all convergences of all movements will have at least about 20 proposals that will make up an agenda so that all public, local and global policies will commit to develop that agenda, okay? This is so much for our axis, and I will pass the mic to Monica from our Opera Film Triunfo jury so that this can reach all the corners of the world. Is this okay for you? I'm giving it back to you. You know, remember yesterday about the song? Now I'm giving you some back to you.
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon rather. We come from the thematic axis on social solidarity economy. It's not easy summarizing everything in 1 minute. We worked on the relationships with states and corporations. So initially we looked at some cross-cutting issues to all of the axes, basically looking at what has already been done, and we, as our colleague from Uruguay said, we shouldn't think that we're building everything from scratch. There's been some work done. There's the challenge of our political struggles. We were seeing how there is sometimes there's some preconceived ideas as to how social movements can participate in public spaces, in policy spaces, and in other countries in Europe, corporations have co-opted political spaces. They have co-opted all of these spaces, and they have also co-opted the tools that are used in politics. And there's a false dichotomy between public policies and what is non-governmental, solidarity-based. There's a big divide. We mentioned how important it is to have concrete projects that help us to come together. A lot is being said, and sometimes we just say things and say things and say things, but we don't truly integrate and join forces in our projects. Feminist struggles have been really important in the world, so we have to look at where we stand vis-a-vis those feminist struggles. I'll try keeping it short. I just wanted to say that in our discussions we heard of concrete proposals. I'd like to mention some of them. We thought that we could have an international mapping exercise of the transformative economies, not just the social and solidarity economy, but all of the transformative economies, to see if we can find any examples that could be replicated elsewhere and inspire us. We also tried identifying challenges and progress achieved in the field of public policies. We also discussed creating a solidarity network. The goal of this network would be to reach out to more social movements and to identify shared struggles, shared values. We talked of solidarity as being at the heart of these transformative economies. As my colleague said, in terms of public policies, we were thinking of having a network that would make it easier to denounce all of the bad practices that are seen and the barriers to participate in transformative economies. There was a proposal to have a legal network.
Slower. Okay.
We
Bien.
Is it okay with the mic at this distance? Yes. So we also talked of having a proposal. A proposal was to have like a legal network, legal support network, like the one that there is in Latin America. There's a network of lawyers for the food sovereignty of the people. We thought it would also be good to have campaigns to dismantle the power of transnational corporations. So we have to denounce companies that are occupying spaces of power, and we have to join efforts in the projects. Thank you.
Hola. Vale. ¿Podéis decir el nombre del
Could you
título del
please
reto?
say what the title of the challenge is?
Narrativa y relato.
Narratives is the title. We identified the fundamental aspects,
Bombardeo de ideas.
and then we had like a brainstorming activity. As for the narrative,
Se trata de diseminar
we want to disseminate or spread the message with very clear, easy to understand text that can be adapted to the different contexts. We want to avoid using abstract ideas and use the language that communities use and not having too technical documents. We want to have contents and ideas that are already there that can be adapted for a mobilization campaign. This can range from short videos to catch people's attention, or articles, research papers, scientific reports, any different form of materials. We also said how important it would be to look for allies, people in universities, press associations or cultural associations, to reach out to all sectors of population and use different communication channels. The channels of communication that we are used to using are not always successful. We have to reach out to community radio stations, local TV stations, and others. And we also need to connect to communities that perhaps aren't working on social and solidarity economy, who don't know about social and solidarity economy, although they put it in practice. We have to adapt the channels of communications to the technology available in each region. As I already said, we have to connect to universities, to professors and students. We have to foster greater participation of youth, and we said that we could hold the event at a university, like in the World Social Forum in Tunisia, where it was held at the university and there were many students there. We also need to find partners who can help us to pass the message down and use our contacts. We have to take ownership of the process. We have to contact with volunteers, work with groups. These are other ideas. The language we use has to be appropriate, clear, adaptable, embracing diversity. It has to be inclusive, and we have to create a relationship model that is based on solidarity. And well, it's all on the pad, and you can find more concrete information on the pad. We want to share some of the things we discussed from the governance group. Firstly, this was a very large group. We did quite a lot of work. Then we split into 4 subgroups, but we were unable to reach any common strategies, but we all committed to work on this. We want to convey some of the aspects that we think are important and some proposals. One of the topics we looked at was the axes, convergences, and thematic axes, and look at which of them were transversal or cross-cutting and which weren't. We heard many voices saying that from the territorial perspective, we wouldn't be working on all of the axes simultaneously, and we said that we need to be ethical in the process, building the process. We have to make clear what transformative economies are and which economies are not transformative. We have to, and going back to the ethics, we need to have mechanisms, ethical mechanisms, to make sure that we have care mechanisms, ethical care mechanisms, and then we have the point on
Lo que se
decisions.
vio es retomar el tema, entre comillas, de la decisión del Foro Social Mundial
We
y
said
de cuáles son las decisiones en el foro,
we have
cuáles
to
no,
find a
y
way
tener
of
claro que las decisiones de las acciones comunes
visualizing
futuras son
the
decisiones de
decisions
nuestras
that are
propias
taken at the
organizaciones.
forum,
Y
and
para terminar,
the decisions taken at the forum
se
are
propuso
ultimately
de que
decisions taken by our
asamblea cambiarle el nombre por
organizations. We
encuentro
said
o
instead
por
of calling
otra
this
cosa, que
an
asamblea es
assembly,
algo donde se
we
vota,
should call it and give it
encontrar un
another name,
lugar donde
because
si se acuerdan cosas
in
sean de
assemblies you vote, and here we're not
coincidencia
voting
total,
anything.
las acciones ya lo dije, y el
So,
tema de conformar una comisión
and
sobre
then
el
we
tema
said we
metodológico
could
y de
create a methodology committee.
tema de desafío para que nos
This
salga
is
muy
a
bien el
challenge,
2020.
and idea is so that the 2020 World Social Forum is a successful one.
Siguiendo en el tema de
And
gobernanza,
still on the issue of
la
governance,
idea es que, ¿qué es el proceso?
we have to look at the process. What is the process? It's not just the different stages to prepare those who are going to come to Barcelona. We also have to look at how we can include those who will not be coming to Barcelona. We are only starting off, and we have to move forward, and we have to look at the ways of participating in the forum. People who would like to join the process, we have to identify them and find a way for those who cannot take a plane and come to Barcelona to participate and find a space on the internet where they can through which they could participate. And we have to differentiate these self-organized activities and initiatives from the spaces where we work by thematic axis or common topics.
Hi, I'm representing the new technology team, the new technology group. We changed the name to Technology for Transformative Economies because we felt it is more apt in this situation. The group had two objectives. One, to create new kind of technology platforms that more aligned with the values of transformative economy. And second, how to empower existing movement of transformative economy through technology. So focusing on one, the existing technology which is being created these days is fundamentally very extractive and capitalist in nature. So the discussion happened on how we can build a movement towards open source peer-to-peer platforms. A lot of tech jargon was used, which I will try to avoid because it's like blockchain, and I'll try not to use those kind of words, but yeah. Second thing was that even the existing open source platforms are not particularly focusing on the needs of creating the transformative economy. The solutions might be generic solutions which again fed into the capitalist mainstream structure. So the idea was how to create specifically technologies which support these movements and help towards them. And the other, and a very, the thing which is also aligned with it is that there's also not a lot of awareness among these people, among the people who work on these fields, that how technology could actually be used to support these movements. So a lot of education and awareness also needs to be built. There's also kind of a general myth that open source platforms are more difficult to use in comparison to the commercial platforms. So how to build this bridge between the open source community and the transformative economy community is also something which we identified as an issue that needs to be worked upon. As for the next 1 year till 2020, we identified two main things. One, we actually listed down a list of open source platforms which provide an alternative to the existing mainstream platforms. It was a huge list, right from an alternative to Gmail and Google Drive to specific platforms which could help help these kind of movements. All this information was entered in a pad, so it will be shared. It will be shared with everyone. Second objective till 2020 was to sort of create a network of organizations working in the field of open source technology, which are focusing on specifically meeting the needs of these movements around transformative economy. So how to create a network of tech people who can support these movements more directly. Thank you.
Voy a intentar resumir lo que se habló.
I'll try summarizing what we saw and the challenge of placing life at the center. I'll try summarizing it. Okay, so some of the colleagues that were there yesterday, we were in this discussion space, and I would call on them to add anything if I've left anything out, because I wasn't expecting to have to come up and sharing with the rest of the group. So going through the notes, I've tried systematizing them to see all of the points that emerged during yesterday in that group. As you know, placing life at the center is the fundamental motto on the feminist economies, but we realize that for many people, the true meaning of placing life at the center isn't clear. The feminist approach to economy tries pushing back capitalism and the dominant economy. Why? Because... Oh, just 1 minute. I have 1 minute. Okay. So, I'll go to the point. On the aspect of social and solidarity economy, we appreciate everything that has been done so far in social and solidarity economy, but perhaps we should place the sustainability of life and interpersonal relationships as the goals, and there should be no actions against life.
Estábamos hablando otra persona que había. Lo estás haciendo súper bien.
You're doing it great. Just that 1 minute is not much time. You have to go more slowly. We'll give you a bit more time, but
sería pues poner esta horizontalidad que deberían tener las relaciones humanas.
We have to have horizontal interpersonal relationships, and if we had these horizontal social relationships, we wouldn't see any of the things happening we see in the traditional economy. Thank you.
Yo quería un poco de agua, por favor, porque me seca la boca. Un poco de
Esto es poner la vida en el centro, un ejemplo.
You are putting life at the center. It's a practical example of what it means to have people at the center.
Que la vida en el centro, sí. es tener en cuenta
I would say that
que
putting life
a
at
ver,
the
las
center
relaciones humanas es lo más
means
importante
that we have
que
to
tenemos
realize
en
that
el mundo
human
y en nuestra vida
relationships are the
terrena.
most
Entonces,
important thing in
todo
the
lo que
world.
sea emplear el tiempo, la producción,
So
el tipo de
everything
relaciones
relating
en nuestra
to
vida cotidiana,
our
el tipo de
everyday
relaciones en
relationships,
en las unidades de convivencia, sean del tipo que
relationships
sean,
in families, of whatever type of families
en los
we are
ámbitos
talking about.
de los trabajos.
Also, in labor relations, we have to place life at the center.
Del consumismo, del productivismo, del extractivismo. Es decir,
And
que la economía social y
social
solidaria
and
no se puede
solidarity economy
contaminar por ninguno de estos aspectos.
cannot be contaminated by extractivism, capitalism, and
Acercamientos de esta mirada feminista
in some places we are, and consumerism, in some places we are managing to include this feminist approach, and the sustainability of life has to bring a new way of treating the land. We have to change our relationship with Mother Earth. We have to turn to non-intensive agricultural practices, but rather extensive agriculture, and a long list of etceteras. And we also need to be aware that in agriculture, many women, there's a majority of women working in agriculture, and we need to change our relationships, and we won't have a transformative change happening unless we are open and embrace all of the diversities. In the Pro-Commons, we express the desire to include this approach of placing life at the center, and regarding technologies. Anyway, I mean education, it's also basic that from very early ages we work with them, and for public policy we need to be aware that sustaining human life means that we have to meet our basic needs, but also our feelings, our emotions. It's just as necessary as ensuring food and everything. And we have to eradicate micro and macro violence, because we must remember that hundreds and thousands of women are killed. And I think that would cover it all.
Muchas gracias a todas.
Thank you all very much
soportar esta
for
presión del tiempo. Lo estamos haciendo bien, ¿vale?
your contributions. I know you're under pressure. We have little time, but we're doing a great job. So let's continue. I'll be talking on the challenge of transformative and inclusive governance. I won't tell you of all of the challenges we identified. I would invite you all to read them on the pad. You have all of the notes of our group. You can go and read all of these in a pad. What I want to share with you is the process we had in that space. It was quite complex, quite violent even, I'd say. And it's something that I think is very emotional. We are talking about power relations in this space. We are talking about power. And the relationships we were building were super violent towards the facilitation team and the convener group. Being critical is important, yes. But during these days, we have been talking about including diversities, and in the governance process, I mean, everyone comes from different positions and we have to be open to them and listen to them. We are also referring to territories. And we have to focus on ourselves. We have to question how we relate to power, what we want, and based on what I am, I have to look at how I relate to other people and what type of power relations we're building to try and build equalitarian and inclusive, respectful power relations, respecting others. Thank you. Thank you both, because we are hearing not only words, also emotions. They are part of life. They are sometimes difficult to express, and they're very wise, just as words can be wise.
Moi, je vais parler pour le groupe d'éducation transformatrice et libératoire.
I'll be speaking about the transformative and equalitarian education. We need an education model that is coherent with methodologies to keep dignity and life at the heart of our education systems. Education has to be systemic, holistic, cross-cutting, and it has to have an intergenerational continuity. It isn't limited to childhood. Education has to be lifelong. It's not just a transmission of knowledge, because it also conveys anti-capitalist, anti-patriarchal values, decolonized, and non-discriminatory and emancipatory. And school, as we see it now, is the reflex of the capitalist system. So we have to free ourselves from this. We need a solidarity economy, needs a solidarity teaching. So formal and non-formal educations must be stimulating and encourage cooperation, mutual help and cooperation. It'll be more difficult to transform formal than non-formal education, but there are examples, and back in the 1920s or in the 70s, education must be a pleasure, a social art. And we need to create a group of practice for children and youth as in the World Social Forum on Transformative Economies.
What do we want to happen until 2020? Open the concept of education, new ethical, philosophical and liberating horizon of education. The learning is actually very linked to institution, and something that just must be deconstructed. I will continue in French because it's not my text.
We have to connect social education to social economy. Solidarity learning will help to democratize education. We want to learn without a submission, without being submissive to our teachers. We need a system that eradicates all forms of discrimination. We need a concentral social central and child-centered education model. We have an example in Ireland where we want to, where they've turned lectures into conversations or dialogues. We have a pad where you can check all of the information, and I think we should engage more youths in this, under this thematic axis on education.
Good afternoon. Given that no other member of the group came up, I did. I was in building of knowledge and own practices in my group. At the beginning of the afternoon, we started with convergence and exchange, but not. We didn't finish with the second part. We only did the first part. We reached the conclusion that we need field of knowledge from the commons area, allies area, where not only systematized knowledge will be uploaded and other experiences, but also we will share knowledge in full, experiences that can be systematized through videos or in writing, but not with a specific format, so that they will not be limited, and then be able to tell our experiences. For example, in the global civic campaign, so that in the global campaign they will have more training material. If each of their organizations can download this knowledge and see which are the parts they need in order to systematize it themselves according to their needs. So this global curriculum campaign can be a part of this, and the area of public policies, all experiences and structures on public policies, fights and debates can be included there, and whoever agrees with that, or wherever they see the answers to their needs, they can download the content and then systematize it according to what we have in the bank, but not only that, but also contribute to it in order to have a common, a new common tool. Sorry to say this, it might sound as a cliche, but it's no copying, original. A second part of our work was in the afternoon as well, where we talked about the actors missing. Many have been mentioned already. More than 25 actors have been mentioned, but I think 2 are missing that haven't. Who haven't? The first is the trade unions. The unions usually come to the World Social Forum. The second are organizations or professional groups of workers, of sexual workers. Because, my dear colleagues, the World Social Forum should resolve not only their needs, but also their problems in this field. That's all.
Vale. Ya estamos con los grupos de
So we're done with the challenge groups. Can you hear me? There's one, oh, there's one missing, sorry. I always forget one, I always leave one out, don't I? Inclusivity. Inclusiveness. Just to say that we worked on own strategies on this challenge, and we discussed about what we thought about own strategies, and it was very interesting what we came up with. It was a small group, a very kind, friendly group with other colleagues who came in to bring their own ideas. Carlos will tell us about the conclusions. Well, at least part of the discussion was starting from who can define what a transformative economy is? Who has the authority to define what it is? We wanted to change the title of own strategy, how to build an agenda articulator of transformative economy and its strengthening, which is the core of the discussion that we were having. So we didn't want to use the issues dealt with in other groups. We wanted to have our own discussion. So the idea, or starting with the idea was, we're talking about establishing jointly the mechanisms, the common mechanisms and the steps for an articulating agenda to strengthen the dialogue between movements and other external actors in order to design an ecosystem of proposals that will be constituting the base of a transformative economy, the ground of the transformative economy. The key axis of the discussions were the following words: articulation, dialogue, strengthening, empowerment. Internal, between networks and movements, with the idea of the diverse voices, and inspired in the classical formula of shared responsibility, but different, with the idea of plurality and diversity, with whatever has to do with what comes from outside, the other actors that can recognize themselves in the transformative world, the need to be more efficient for climate emergencies and disasters, natural talents, financial talents, systematizing tools from mappings, knowledge banks, knowledge sharing, peer-to-peer learning, etc., to become a movement to proposing options, operational options that can be alternatives. In order to implement this, finally, this transformative economy, we need to broaden its application with a greater impact. Last point, to gain visibility in front of other actors that we need to convince or integrate in order to open other spaces, other ecosystems, and participate in them. We had 3 important points where we dealt with how to do this. The first, the mapping of key actors that we still need to mobilize, that should be present, who should be present in 2022 to open the discussion. Otherwise, there will be no process. The end for us was very important, was the international call to get together through a series of open questions, not a political text, to encapsulate a debate, but rather to open it out to the 2020 forum so that people and the movements can relate to it, can feel involved in it and identified with it. So having a political position runs the risk of having a lot of these movements not relate to it. So the strategy for convincement means that communication will play a crucial role.
Las agendas están acabamos así. Sí.
It's all in the document. I will use this moment. I don't know if anybody from the educational and financial ethics here, ethical financing here, anyone from education and financial ethics, we discuss something important. We cannot talk about economy if we don't talk about finance. We need to talk about transformative finances. So I think the title should reflect that. Finance should be at the core of the discussion on economy. So when speaking about the challenges, financing was transversal, was cross-cutting, but economy was not including finance, and finance was not including economy, and this should be, but it should be like this. They should be together. One should include the other. Thank you very much to those of you who came and acted as spokespeople of your accesses, of your challenges groups. We still have so much to stay here and learn, but it's about time to finish. But we started singing, and our idea was to have a ritual so that we can use different languages for what we're doing. So I will give the floor to Laura to guide us through this closing trip, this closing journey. I will ask you to now leave your phones, notepads, notebooks, pens, anything aside, and maybe just take a moment to be in silence in order to listen to ourselves more internally and collectively in a different way, from a different place. I will ask you to take a moment as well, so that from where you are, look in the eyes of the people around you, people next to you, a new way of recognizing each other, a new way of saying, I see you, I respect you, I know that you are here, thank you. Whoever feels like it, you can hold hands or shake hands or touch the people who is next to you. Your body is your home.
Si podemos evitar levantarnos, porque voy a seguir. Luego al final puede haber más abrazos y cosas.
At the end, we will leave some space for hugs as well.
Y os voy a pedir ahora
and now I will ask you,
voy a guiar para que hagamos
I will guide you through a
viaje, por este viaje que hemos hecho estos 3 días.
Little journey that will take us through our last 3 days. That might feel like it's been a week or even a month or a year. Some of us were talking like before the forum and after the forum as a reference of dates, like before Christ and after Christ. So we can start talking before the forum and after the forum. Before the forum I was feeling like this, or I saw things like this, and after the forum I see things in this other way. So let's take this small trip through this, down this river, where each of us has gone through different moments, where some moments we felt that we were flowing, just like the water flowing down. Some we might come across stones, lugs, stagnant waters, get stuck, dams, but it's all part of the movement of the water. I don't know if you heard that we asked you to bring an image, an object that would make you feel at home, that would remind you of home. Do you have it with you? If you do, you can take it in your hand now. If you didn't, bring it, don't worry. You can grab it in your mind, with your imagination, and then hold it in your hand. In that way, I'll leave you a moment for you to do that. And now, I will ask you to do something with your imagination. It might help to close your eyes. If this works, you can close your eyes. And with your imagination, travel to that space, that place that makes you feel at home. Go to that place. And let that place inhabit in you. Breathe the moment in and out. and see if there's anything different
vuestro cuerpo,
in your body,
en vuestra respiración,
in your breathing,
en vuestra postura,
in your
en
position,
vuestro corazón,
in your heart,
en vuestra mente.
in your mind.
Ser ese lugar.
Be that place right now.
Dejar que os habite.
Let it inhabit you.
Y sentir cómo la silla
And feel
os sostiene,
how the chair
cómo la
is
tierra
sustaining you, how
nos sostiene,
earth
el suelo
is sustaining you, the floor is sustaining you.
y desde este lugar
From this place,
nos vamos a situar al viernes por la mañana,
we are now going to go back to Friday morning,
cuando llegasteis
where
a este
when you
espacio.
arrived in this space,
Quizá para algunas fue fácil llegar aquí,
maybe for some of
para
you
otras fue más
it was
difícil.
easy to get here, and for others
Hubo el
it was
checkpoint
harder. We had the
para
checkpoint,
informarse, repartir acreditaciones, repartir libretas,
distribution
primeros saludos
of the
con las personas.
accreditations, the greetings with the
después
people, and then
llegamos a esta misma sala,
we reached
al
this
acto inaugural.
hall for the opening act.
El grupo impulsor nos dio la
The
bienvenida
convener group
y ahora sencillamente se
greeted
trata de que vayáis
us, and now
notando
it's just
este
a matter of
recorrido que habéis hecho.
walking
Solo volver a pasar la
that
película
path again
de todo
in
lo que
the
habéis vivido estos
movie, in the film of
En ese acto
what has
inaugural hubo
happened
la
in
bienvenida
your
del grupo
mind,
impulsor,
the welcome
hubo la
from the
presentación del
convener
equipo de
group, the
facilitación,
introduction of the facilitator
teatro.
team, like in a small play.
hubo
There was
también un desayuno
breakfast
antes del acto de bienvenida
before
y
the
después empezamos el
welcome
trabajo
act, and then we started
por
working
ejes y
by
acciones transformadoras
axes,
para conocernos dentro de cada movimiento.
transformative axis, so that we would get to know each other,
Allí estuvimos compartiendo experiencias
working in
valiosas.
our respective movements, and we were sharing valuable experiences
¿Qué
there,
había en
and
común en esas experiencias?
feeling what we
¿Qué
had
era
in
lo que las
common
hacía
with those
valiosas?
experiences, what made them precious and valuable.
Después nos fuimos a comer
After that, we went to lunch,
y seguimos trabajando en esas experiencias,
and we kept on working
notando
on
los
those
retos
experiences,
comunes que estábamos
feeling the
haciendo
common
frente a través de
challenges
esas
that we were tackling through those experiences,
y de allí cada eje,
that we were
cada
facing
movimiento
through those experiences, and
sacó
that
unos cuantos
then each
retos
movement came up
comunes
with some
para
common
trabajar
challenges
confluyendo.
to be worked on in convergence.
Quizá en algunos grupos fue un proceso
Maybe in
más
some
sencillo,
group it
más
was
fácil llegar a esos retos
easier,
comunes.
more simple
Quizá en otros grupos fue más complicado.
thing to reach those agreements, those challenges. Maybe in some other groups they found it harder to do that,
Terminamos
to
a las
find the
7 el viernes.
the priorities among those challenges.
Una parte de la tarde por
Then
delante.
we still had
Quizá
the
te
whole
fuiste a descansar,
afternoon. Maybe you had a
quedaste
little
charlando
rest, or
con
maybe
gente,
you
quizá fuiste
chatted.
a una actividad,
Maybe you went
quizá fuiste a
to an
cenar, a
activity,
tomar
you had dinner
algo con alguien.
after it was over
Esos
in the
espacios
afternoon.
informales,
Those informal
que
spaces
son también muy
are also important, very much so.
Después vino el sábado,
And then we had Saturday.
empezamos media hora tarde
We started half an hour late,
y el equipo de facilitación nos
and
presentamos
the facilitating team
el ensamblaje que habíamos hecho con lo
introduced us
recogido
to
de
the
cada eje.
putting together the document, including all that had been done in the
Estuvimos
axis.
trabajando en grupos
Everything
pequeños
that had been
sobre
put together.
estos
We worked in small
diferentes
groups on
retos
these different challenges
por la mañana
in the morning,
y también un poco después
and
de comer.
then after lunch for a little while as well.
Estuviste todo el día
Maybe you
trabajando
spent
con
all
la
day
misma
working
gente,
with the same people
el mismo reto.
on the same
Quizá
challenge,
estuviste en
or maybe
diferentes grupos, con
you were in
diferentes
different groups with different
personas.
people.
Y en la última parte de la tarde,
In the last part of the afternoon,
el grupo impulsor explicó
the convener group
en grupos, en 6 grupos,
explained by
el
groups
modelo de
in
gobernanza.
6 different
Hubo un
groups the
espacio
governance
para
model, and there was a
recoger
space
opiniones,
to gather
feedback
opinions
sobre el
and
modelo,
feedback on that model,
y también
and
personas de
then
los grupos
also
que habían
people
trabajado
from the
el tema de
groups
la
that had
gobernanza
been
del
working
foro
on
también
governance
explicaron lo
on the
que habían
governance of
estado
the forum. They
trabajando
explained what they had
durante
been
ese
working on during that day.
Y también hubo diferentes experiencias, hubo grupos
And we had
donde
different experiences there
salieron
as
temas
well.
calientes,
We heard about
hubo
hot
grupos
issues
quizá más tensos,
and
en otros
moments of
grupos un poco
tension.
más relajados.
In other groups, it was more relaxed,
¿Cuál
maybe.
fue tu experiencia?
Feel what your experience was in that sense.
Terminamos a las 6:30
We finished at 6:30.
y quizá de nuevo te fuiste con alguien, quizá seguiste hablando de los
Maybe
temas que se estaban
you
trabajando
stayed to
estos días,
chat
quizá fuiste a
with
hacer
someone
algo
for a while, or you left
diferente,
with someone, or you went and did
descansar.
something different. Maybe you went and took a rest.
Y llegamos a hoy,
And that's how we reached it today,
donde hemos estado primeramente
where we
trabajando en
started
las confluencias territoriales.
working on territory convergence.
Después ha habido un desayuno.
Then we had breakfast,
Y este espacio en el que
and
estamos
then we
ahora,
reached the space where we are now.
que ha empezado con música, con
It started
canciones,
with
con creatividad.
songs and music,
Luego ha hablado el grupo
creativity,
impulsor,
and then we
después
had the
han hablado
convener
las confluencias,
team
y ahora terminamos de escuchar a los
speaking, then the
diferentes retos.
convergence representatives and the different groups.
Con todo este viaje que has hecho, todo
All
lo
this journey you've
todo lo sentipensado,
taken, all what you've felt
nota
and thought,
qué te quieres llevar,
see what you want to take home with you.
qué quieres llevarte
What is it that
dentro
you
de
want
ese
to
objeto que has traído,
bring into that
quieres
object you've brought with you
dentro de
that's now in your hand?
tu
What
corazón,
do you want
tu
to
cuerpo,
bring
tu
back
mente,
home in your heart?
qué quieres llevar a
What
tu
do you want
casa,
to bring
a tu territorio.
back from these events, back to your home and your territory?
Quizá te quieres llevar muchas cosas.
Maybe you want to take many things.
Quizá te quieres llevar
Maybe you want
una,
to just
quizá
take
no te
one
quieres
bag. Maybe
llevar
you
nada.
don't want to take anything
Y quizá
with
también
you.
quieres dejar algo.
Maybe you want to leave something here as well.
También puedes dejar algo que
Maybe you
ya no
can leave
quieres llevar.
something that you don't want to take with you anymore.
Entonces pon esta cosa
You can now
quieres
leave this
llevar
thing. No, you
dentro
can
de este
put the
objeto
thing
que
that
tienes
you
en
do
tus
want to take
manos
with
o
you,
que
this
tienes en tu
object that you have
imaginación,
in your hand or in your
dentro de tu
imagination,
corazón.
in your heart.
Y cuando ya hayas hecho esto,
Once you've done this,
si lo has podido hacer, para algunas personas es
if you're
fácil
able
hacer
to,
este tipo de
for
viajes,
some
para
people,
otras no tanto, y está bien
it is
respetarse
this kind of
y hacer
journeys
cada uno lo que
are
siente.
easy to an easy thing to do. For others, not
Y a
so much
continuación,
so.
Vamos a volver a esta sala,
But now
vamos a volver a abrir
we
los ojos
can open our eyes
y
again and come back
manteniendo
to
este
this
ambiente que hay ahora,
place and keeping this atmosphere of silence.
os voy a pedir
I
que
will ask
en
you
voz muy bajita,
to, in a very
las personas que estáis aquí,
low, very quietly and
digáis al
very,
oído de la persona de vuestra
just a
izquierda,
whispering, just in a whisper,
muy flojito,
say in the
esa cosa que os queréis llevar.
in the ear of the
Esa
person
persona
sitting
va a
to your
hacer lo
left,
mismo con
what you want to take back with you. And we are going to go all the way around in a circle until we arrive back here at this point. We need to just hear whispers. It doesn't matter if we do not speak the same language. I will just tell the person next to me what I want to take back with me, and the other person will listen. Even if we don't share language, we will understand things. We will understand something. You can start.
Solo va en esta dirección.
Just in this direction, please.
Y hace falta paciencia.
And we need patience.
Que es muy necesaria para
a very necessary thing to face the capitalist time.
Mantengamos este silencio, solo hablan las personas a quien les
and let us try to keep the silence, please, and only the people who need to talk will do so, and in whispers.
Es un momento íntimo.
This is an intimate moment.
La gente que no estáis de forma tan clara dentro del círculo, también improvisar a vuestro modo.
Those of you who are not in the circle,
pasaros ese mensaje
who are
las unas a
not so
las
clearly in the center, try to think of a way to pass this message on from one to the other, to pass one other this message.
Ayuda mucho respirar.
It will help
si os ponéis
you
nerviosas,
to
podéis
breathe.
seguir con los ojos cerrados hasta que os toque vuestro turno,
Some few
respirando.
deep breaths. You can wait. While you wait, you can take a few deep breaths. That might help.
Lo estamos haciendo muy bien. Seguimos con esta calma, esperando nuestro momento.
So we'll just wait
respirando,
patiently, breathing,
sosteniendo este momento hasta que todo el mundo
sustaining
haya
this
podido
moment,
decirle
holding
a su compañera lo que se lleva.
this moment until everyone has been able to hear what their colleague has to say, what they want to take back with them.
Las emociones son bienvenidas.
Emotions are welcome.
Perfecto.
It's okay.
Que salgan.
It's okay for them to come
parte
out.
de la vida.
You can release them. You can go out of track.
Me avisáis cuando haya llegado aquí.
So just let me know when you've gone round and arrived and gone all around, and when we need to finish. Did you? Is it coming here? Is it
Tenemos unos minutos
being
para
done?
terminar.
We
Si
have a
alguien
few minutes to
falta,
finish. Is everybody done?
que corra.
Okay, you can so we can close this circle and finish.
Vale, pues
Very well.
muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for this moment.
Bien, pues es el momento del cierre.
This is the
de los créditos, de
moment
los
for the
agradecimientos.
closing, credits, thanks.
Como Isabel ha explicado muy bien, poner
Like
las
Isabel
personas en el
said,
centro es la clave de
putting
casi
people at
todo
the
lo que
center is the
hacemos.
key of almost everything that we
Yo
do.
solo quiero
And I just
cerrar
wanted
primero con
to
una cuestión
close
práctica,
by
que
saying,
es,
first, just one
saliendo de aquí
practical thing.
vamos a
Coming
hacernos
out,
todas las que quieran una foto
whoever
en el
wants,
claustro,
we will
en
take a
este primer
picture
patio que hay.
at the
Nos
cloister
invitan a
in
ser
this
creativas
first
y si queremos tomar poses
courtyard
de sus
that we have
heroínas, la
downstairs.
foto será divertida.
It will be a fun
Y
picture
después
for
tendremos
sure.
la comida en los
After
jardines
that,
donde
we'll
hemos
have
comido
lunch
todos
in
los
the
días.
gardens where we had our lunch every day.
Queremos desde el grupo impulsor también
From the
agradeceros a todas vuestra presencia.
We want to thank you all
Teníamos
for your presence.
315 inscritos,
We
46
had
países representados,
315
165
participants,
mujeres,
46
139 hombres y
countries,
una persona que se define no binaria.
with
Y nada, gracias
distribution
a todos
of
porque habéis hecho posible esta reunión
175
viniendo,
women,
evidentemente,
119
119
women, 175 men, and one person defined as non-binary. I want to thank you all for having participated
Y después, otra parte que
in
tiene
this
un poco de
event.
ritual,
And
pero
then
que hemos
the second
considerado que es
thing I wanted to
importante
say,
porque
it's
llegar
a
hasta
bit of a
aquí
ritual, but
ha
I
sido
think it's
muy
important too
difícil.
because it
Necesitamos
hasn't been
que el
easy
equipo
to
técnico que ha estado detrás y que está por
be
ahí
here, to get here. So I want the organizers, the technical team, who's been one of the organizing team.
Sandra, Anso, María, Rosendo, otra María, Lali, Iris, Marión, Julia y el Xavi, que empezó también trabajando en todo esto. Gracias de verdad. Gracias al equipo de facilitación, que están casi todas por aquí. Laura, Clara, Uri, Amalia, Lucía, Ana, Lidia, Noelia, Laura, Yaira, Nuria, Ama, Nona, Nina y Guille. Muchas gracias. Traductores y traductoras de Coati, Axel, Katia y Mateo. Y ahora vienen un montón, pero las voy a decir todas. Beatriz, Carol, Katy, Claire, David, Diego, Elena, Elisenda, François, Frédéric, Gemma, Janine, Joana, Laia, Laura, Laurent, Leticia, Lía, Luis, Luc, Margarita, María, Maribel, Matías, Maya, Melissa, Miguel, Monse, Nuria, Sonia, Vanessa, Xavi y Ceila. Casi nada. Gracias por hacer que nos entendamos. Me quedan las personas de restauración que no han podido
the
seguir
people
porque
who
están
prepared the
haciendo que
food and they
Rosito
couldn't come on because they are preparing our food.
Ian, Cotu, Ciro, Sandra, Ali, Joel, Equiñe, Popa, María y Mario. A Dioncop, que nos ha ayudado con la logística, Tati y Ava, que han coordinado. A Kesoni, que nos ha ayudado con el audio. Indigestión, Jordi, Bea y Adriano, que definieron el acto inaugural. ¿Vale?
Okay,
Y el personal de la
and I'd also like to thank the staff from the University of Barcelona who allowed us to use this space. They are with us.
Y no menos importante, las entidades,
And all of the social and solidarity organizations and
que existe, Aula de Idiomas, Claraboya, Lucky,
all of the idiomas, Kuti, and a long list of other social and solidarity organizations that have collaborated to make this possible.
Comuns, Decidim, Judith Pancheta y la Manoli. Muchas gracias. y espero no haberme dejado a nadie, así que